forward with the audio.
That sounds fine to me. I mean, why not do crossovers? I just never thought to actually do that. Usually people just come on the show, but it totally makes sense for people to take down their episode and release it as their own because they made the content with me and it's podcast. It's free.
Yeah, that's why I make the big bucks, dude.
But welcome to Crisis on Multiple Podcast number 21. It's the start of Season 2, guys, where we switch to a different format, where we release when we have a guest. Huh? It's a good new format, right? So it's not going to be coming every week, but it'll be more full of awesome content. But we have special guests here tonight. The Alt3red Egos Podcast. Thank you guys for joining me. May you introduce yourselves.
Yeah, my name is X, and I am, as you said, one of the hosts of the aforementioned Alt3red Egos Comic Book Podcast. And with me is one of my co-hosts, Glenn Cuba Diaz.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks, guys, for coming on. Now we're just gonna be talking podcasts and comics, and my first question I gotta ask you guys is, how'd your podcast start?
Well, when I was in college, I did a version of Alt3red Egos for local radio station. We did it for a couple of weeks, and it was one of those things that. It was really fun, but after a while, it just got to be too hectic. We tried to do a 3-hour show every week. It was way too much on us. And we were doing all the engineering. We were doing all the content and everything. Basically, all they did is say, show up and do the show. Fast forward about 15 years, I got the itch again when I started listening to podcasts. I always associate DC Noise as the podfather. So that's what I started listening to and actually got me into it. One day I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot myself. Mike and Eric at the time, who were on the show, were gracious enough to allow me to go ahead and be part of it. And we went ahead and it worked out pretty good.
Nice. How long have you guys been a podcast?
Off and on since 2010. But we finally got our stuff together, so now I'd say we've officially got everything rolling in the right direction. So let's say 2010.
That's great. No, that's fantastic. Now, how often do you guys put out an episode?
Glenn, you want to grab that?
Sure. Well, we have two different shows that we produce. We have the Alt3red Egos Comic Book Podcast that we do every other week, and then the in-between weeks is a show that I put out called the Shotcast, which is usually about 15-20 minutes long and just covering a variety of different topics. Our most recent Shotcast was on reboots, remakes, and recasts as far as movie goes, as in honor of Amazing Spider-Man 2 coming out, and all the crazy hoopla and craziness that goes around, everybody freaking out over another reboot. But it's just kind of quick shots like that, and then we do a pretty substantial show as the Alt3red Egos Podcast, where X and I just kind of wax poetic on all kinds of fun comic book stuff.
That's awesome. Do you guys? Is your show?
We actually have we actually have a member of Alt3red Egos. It's a noob. Which we affectionately refer to him as. He considers himself a noob, even though he's probably been reading comics longer than all of us have been alive. But he's been out for a little bit, but we've been talking to him recently. He should be making his triumphant return fairly soon, so if anybody's a regular listener of Alt3red Egos, you should probably hear Noobs coming back pretty soon, so that's something to be happy about.
We keep him in a box like the Gimp in Pulp Fiction.
You're just we need him for a podcast sometime. I mean,
yeah, when X and I are tired, we just lean back and say, "Bring out the Gimp. No, bring out the Noob."
It's very much where I do more technical stuff, and since I've been reading comics on and off for a long period of time. I'll read 2 years and then I won't read for 4 years, and then I'll read for a year, and then I won't read for 3 more years. It just depends on which way the wind blows and how much money I'm making at the time. Glenn and Noob are really the comic book encyclopedias on our show. So if I don't know it, which is probably about 30% of the time, 70% of the time, I only know about 30% of what I'm talking about. Glenn and Noob usually pick up the slack.
Well, that's good. It sounds like a good show. Now, for people who don't listen to your show, what type of show is it? A review? Is it just talk and discussion? What do you guys usually just do for Alt3red Egos?
Right. Exactly.
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag, really. We lately what we've been doing is we'll between the staffers, we kind of just get together and we figure out exactly what it is that we want to talk about or what we want to touch upon, and we just kind of let it. We have like bullet points that we see, but we kind of just let the conversation flow organically from that,
Nice.
because we have a tendency to sometimes run off the rails, so to speak. But it's fun because
some of us more than others.
A little bit, because I mean, if you ever been
That's
hung out with your buddies,
podcasting, man. That's what it's all about. It's about conversation. Come on.
if you ever talk to your buddies about movies or comics or whatever, you'll start talking about the X-Men and then roll over into Teen Titans and then bring it back all the way around to something from some independent publisher and get into a knockdown, drag-out fist fight over who's cooler, Namor or Submarine or
Don't. It's not even a contest. Come on. When your own company puts the competition beating you, sorry Namor and all you Namor fans. Next, that discussion's over. And how many books does Namor have? How many monthlies does Namor have right now? Next, move on.
Yeesh. It's a tough crowd, Frank. I'm telling you, it's tough over here. But,
the only thing that we really try and look at it as, originally we did kind of like 2 versions of the show. We did like one that was like for the noobs, new readers, new guys coming in, and then one was for like the hardcore fanboys, and we kind of split it in the middle. We kind of went away from that, but we try to make it so that whatever's going on, Glenn and Noob do a great job of that specifically, but I really try and stay on it, that if it's something that's not just blatant run-of-the-mill, somebody that saw the movie or has a kind of interest in the topic, that we stop and explain what that is, what this is, and stuff like that. So we look at it. Originally, we say every time we sign off on the show, I always say every comic is someone's first. Make sure yours counts. So that's what we have on the website now. And before, we still kind of go by that motto that we're bridging the gap between observation and obsession.
I like it. I like it a lot. Now, you guys said earlier something about reboots in Amazing Spider-Man. I just watched Amazing Spider-Man today. Did any of you guys see it?
I haven't seen it yet, but don't worry about spoilers for me, because if we're not doing the review for it right now, I probably won't get around to seeing it for another month or 2, because there's too many like Care Bear movies and stuff like that my 4-year-old needs to see.
And I mean, the rest of us are like having problems being like, well, Godzilla comes out next week, and then the week after that, it's X-Men Days of Future Past. Like, the rest of us are having problems like that, but you're like, Care Bear 2 is coming in. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I caught Spider-Man over the weekend myself. I took my nieces to go see it, and they loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Oh my God, they did.
And they are awesome comic book fans, by the way. Glenn Diaz is raising them right over there. Let me tell you.
That's what uncles are for.
What did you think of the movie, though?
It's funny because I've been reading like reviews over the last couple of days. I really tried to shy away from internet stuff because it can just really kind of get vicious out there. And I've read like professional reviewers kind of bash the movie, but then in the comments section, I always read people defending the movie. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was the most comic accurate version of Spider-Man in a movie that I've seen, and that's even from Amazing Spider-Man, which really started to touch upon that. in the first Amazing Spider-Man, more so than the Sam Raimi ones did. You got that banter going with Spider-Man against his villains, and you have those like very Spider-Man type of moments that you get in the comics. And you know, people, I don't know, people had a problem with the dialogue. See these.
I watched it today, and I just had this problem where it was just like there was, first off, too many subplots, and there was too many great parts. And then there was way too many parts where I couldn't believe they even made it into the movie or existed, like, at all. Like, they were just, we go.
I know, I've heard that. I've read that. I've heard that. I've seen that, and like that's, you know, and that's the problem with a lot of times with comic book movies, whichever comic book movie you're talking about, either the comic book, either people say that there's not enough plot and it was just all special effects, or there was too much plot, but yeah, I mean, there seems to be a lot of plot, but still, like, the movie delivers in the action sequences. So
no, it's not the plots that plot heavy. That's good. It to be actually like depth, but the problem is that they start a bunch of plots for a sequel and for anything else, and they don't really care. There's a Felicia Hardy thing happening, and there's something about Peter's parents happening, and there's something about Osborn, and there's something about Gwen, and there's something about, you know, her getting into whatever, and there's like so many different plot lines, and you're like, what? Why so many plot lines? You can just feel that 5 writers had their fingers in it, that there's so many good parts because there was a lot of writers, but then there's like parts where they're just like, well, I wanted this, and then the movie just kind of.
You know what's funny is that if you were to put all of that into the pages of a comic book, because as a comic book reader, you'll recognize the moments
as a comic book so well, like especially the whole beginning Rhino scene is like straight out of a comic book.
I know, it's great. Someone I read online tried to make a point. Is like, you know, this guy's robbing an armored car in the middle of the day. I'm like, yeah, dude, because that's how they do it in the comic books. Hello.
Yeah, no one's robbing an armored truck at night. Like, what are you talking about?
No, the armored cars are all put away at nighttime. You gotta rob them in the daytime.
Yeah, that doesn't even make any sense, that comment.
Right. But you know, it's like those little subplots where like they seem to start something and let it dangle off. Those are like those one panel. You know, it's a one panel shot in a comic book where they like hinted something that you'll find out about like 3 or 4 issues later, which is it's a lot harder to pull off in a movie because it's a movie, and you're gonna have to wait 2-3 years before the next one for the payoff that you might forget about. So it's tough.
Something you want in a movie, you want it to be satisfying. That's why I really love Winter Soldier, is because they built a complete story, and then at the end they were like sequel, and then they walked away. You know, like there wasn't it wasn't spending the entire movie being like, hey, guess what, guys? Sinister Six is coming, and like. I
know. I mean, Marvel's got the formula down, man. Like they've got it going on. So it's, and you know, I think that's the other thing. Like I think people are bashing like this movie. I don't think they're really saying too many bad things about the X-Men, because the last couple movies have really just kind of crushed it. But and especially with all the hoopla and buzz around the casting and the story plot points of the new Fantastic Four, I think people just like hope that it fails for the sake that Marvel gets their properties back.
Absolutely, everyone.
But like that's the thing. It's like, oh, you know, Spider-Man's going to be terrible, and I hope Marvel gets their thing back. It's like, listen, the movie's going to make money, so it's going to make a sequel. Sony's not going to let. No. And that's the thing, is like Mark Webb is a fan of the comic book, so you've got people that want to do a good job for it, and they're going to make money, and like those properties just aren't going to. Maybe Fantastic Four if it really tanks hard, but like Spider-Man's going to make enough money from sequel to sequel to.
Four is the only one in danger of being sent back to Marvel. Everything else is going to stay where it is. Like Sony has its lined up. Like already, Spider-Man 3 is already lined up, and they said that Sinister Six and Venom are happening. So that means still Spider-Man properties are happening for 3 more movies, which could mean 10 more years. Who knows? And then that spawns so many other movies that you'll never see Spider-Man return back to Marvel. Like, it's just there might be a crossover down the road, but maybe not.
Sony would have to royally screw it up in order for Marvel to even have a chance of buying that back.
They would need a Batman and Robin. That's what they would need. They would need a Batman and Robin for that to happen. Like, they would need something that would murder everything in movies, like superhero movies in that whole generation. Because that's what Batman and Robin did. They were like, oh yeah, superhero movies are a big thing. Batman and Robin, and no superhero movies. Oh wait, we can make superhero movies again.
That was like the Chernobyl meltdown of comic book superhero movies. I think it was really after that it was really kind of Blade that started to bring all that back a little bit.
A little bit
before the X-Men.
It brought a little cool back. And the X-Men is still before they figured out how to do superhero movies. Like, I feel like they finally hit it at Iron Man. Like, Iron Man's where it goes, you know, like that movie has like the formula. It's one of those movies that I feel like even if you don't like superheroes, it's just a great story. So it's just like you'll still like it if you like movies. And that's why Iron Man succeeds.
Normally, when we discuss this stuff, we always have to put into perspective that sometimes Glenn has a tendency to really, really like comic book movies. So we have something that we refer to as the Diaz equivalency. Where, and Glenn, what was your original rating for the Green Lantern movie again?
I don't remember.
Very convenient. But anyway, Glenn has an attitude that I think a lot of people should probably remember, or comic book fans anyway, should remember when we see these movies, and it's that whenever we are watching one of these movies, on in the theater, we have to remember that there was a time when we didn't get any of these movies, and we were begging and praying.
Talk about this for ever and ever. It's our favorite topic because we are spoiled. I watched the first 10 minutes of the movie, and I just turned to Deshaun and I said, if you dropped this, if you went back and you found your DeLorean, got in your DeLorean, drove back, you went back to 85, you went out, played the first 10 minutes of Amazing Spider-Man, everyone would freak out. Like, everyone would die. Like, geek fans would have a revolution. It would have been something else because that first 10 minutes of that film was like a dream of Spider-Man. Like, if to like a Spider-Man fan visually, because it's just so beautiful and so perfectly choreographed that you're just like, this is Spider-Man, and it looks crazy. And if you played it in 1985, no one would have believed you. They would have been like, no, there's nothing like that. And then,
that's why I maintain Tank Girl is the best comic book movie ever made.
I still have not seen that. I've still not seen Tank Girl.
Dude, Laura Petty and Roddy McDowell, come on, you gotta see that.
Okay, I will. I've heard several times I need to see Tank Girl, but I haven't read Tank Girl. So
to be fair, we're talking about Tank Girl, so the source material wasn't the best, and I know I'll get ragged on for that too. But if you've ever read Tank Girl and you see the comic, it's like the comic brought to life. So that's why I think it was as good as it was. But that being said, and I'm guilty of it too. We all see these things and we're like, oh man, I wish it was this and I wish it was that. Lay fans that are coming don't care. As long as it's a good movie and has a decent plot, that's why the Avengers did as well as it did. Because it was a really strong movie and then it was cool on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then think of Batman '89. People complained about this Batman in Dark Knight Rises. They were like, why would Batman quit? Why would he do, like they're questioning all of Batman motives. If you watch Batman '89, he goes around shooting at people and he kills a bunch of people. And then Batman fans still love that movie. No one really cared back then if you still fucked up the movie, as long as it looked metal as hell and it was awesome. No one really cared.
That's that's what I try to tell people. It's like, look, Green Lantern is a prime example because it's always touted as being a flop. Even though I think it made money, but
it's so good. It's so bad, dude. Ryan Reynolds is the worst Hal Jordan. He's just.
Well, I think if he had better material, and which was really crazy since what's his name, Jeff Johns was so involved with the movie. Like if the character had been written differently, like he was written to be almost like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, where he's kind of like mopey, and down on himself. And it's like first of all, that's not really the personification of Hal Jordan. I mean, you want to talk about like swagger. Like the character of Hal Jordan should like personify cocky swagger. You know what I mean?
I don't even understand how it got messed up with how much involvement Jeff Johns had in that movie. Like it really doesn't make any sense. The man wrote Secret Origins. He redid the origin of Green Lantern just so he could tell his next couple years of Green Lantern. It's just like, why would he not just take that story and then put it on screen? He said he wanted to do that. That's like what he always talked about. And then when it happened, it just was awful. And it's just like, what? And why would you waste Parallax on the first fucking Green Lantern movie? Like, why would you, why? You have Hector Hammond. Just use him. And then they, wasted it. They waste Parallax, which they could have saved for, a movie down the line, or second movie, third movie, Green Lantern. They could have used that. Nope.
Yeah. No, that kind of mystified me too. And I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, and I met Jeff Johns at New York Comic Con a few years back. Where's your? I know I've got all mine stashed upstairs in the office. Office.
In the office. No.
But I ran into Jeff John a couple years ago at New York Comic Con before the movie came out, and he showed me a picture on his phone. I love it. Of Mark Strong in the Sinestro makeup. Like they hadn't even finished filming yet, and I was like, oh my god, I just saw a glimpse. I just got a peek behind the curtain, and it was awesome.
Hey Frank, where's your scale lantern? Where's that?
That's up in the office too. I'm down.
Not you, Glenn. I'm talking to Frank. Where's his scale lantern?
I don't have a scale lantern.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Go ahead, Glenn.
I'm sorry. I wish. I'm a poor college student, man. I can't just be like, I'm gonna go buy a Green Lantern. Yeah. Instead of eating this month.
It's all about priorities, dude. Would you rather have a Green Lantern and eat bologna and peanut butter? Or would you rather have tacos and no Green Lantern? I mean, it's it's a judgment call.
Bargain, sir. You drive a good bike.
Ramen goes a long way toward a Green Lantern.
It also sounds terrible and completely unhealthy. But I mean, I'm a huge Green Lantern fan too. I told X the story of how I got into Green Lantern was that. Somebody was like, no, you'll really like Green Lantern, just download it offline. And I was like, all right. And I clicked this one button thinking that I was going to get one comic, and I got all of Jeff Johns' run.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, cool. And I just read the entire, just didn't stop and read the entire thing, and that's how I got addicted to comics again. Because I was, really young, and I was like, I love comics, and then I totally was like, no, nerd stuff's bad. Then when I went to college, I was like, fuck that. And was just like, I love being a nerd, and I got into comics again, and that got me addicted and having to buy every week. Because I was just like, holy crap.
No, it's just.
Glenn, I didn't mean to harsh on your groovy, Glenn. You were talking about Jeff Johns and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, but it was as a Green Lantern fan, I really wanted that movie to be great, and I think I saw it through eyes of a Green Lantern fan. So I picked out the very best parts of it and kind of just focused on the good. See, the Green Lantern, and I've always said there are certain heroes like Green Lantern and Superman. They need to be fighting big villains. You can't have Green Lantern fighting bank robbers and stuff like that. It's just the situation is over in a split. Spider-Man, he can fight bank robbers because he's still as strong as he is and as fast as he is. He's still more of a normal dude.
Yeah.
So, but like Superman fighting bank robbers, you know, like that's why I'm glad with the Man of Steel he fought Zod right off the bat, because you can only go so many times to the Lex Luthor well before you're like, come on, dude, really? I mean, like, depending on which version of Lex Luthor, if you're looking at the crazy real estate mogul. The crazy real estate mogul Lex Luthor, like how does Superman not just put this guy in the ground already? But if you're talking about the brilliant super scientist, billionaire Lex Luthor, that might be a little more challenging.
Well, they're gonna do that with the Batman versus Superman, obviously, with Jesse Eisenberg. If Jesse Eisenberg's gonna play it, he's not gonna play it, it down at all. He's gonna be full going at it,
Right. And they already did that in Man of Steel. They laid the foundation that there's a LexCorp out there, and not just like Lex Luthor.
Another example of laying down sequel work, and I didn't have to feel like I was getting the other movie shoved in my mouth. Like, this is like that movie just was like, hey, LexCorp truck. Hey, a LexCorp, truck just flew and hit Zod in the face. Oh, they hit a Wayne satellite. You're like, perfect, sequel bait. Like,
oh, look, Cord Industries, yay!
Yeah, exactly. Like, isn't that going to be... I was so excited by all those great things. And it's like, with Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just like, Sinister Six doors open, and like you see all these files and all these other sequel baits, and like Felicia Hardy is introduced really quickly, and so is who's the Spider Slayer guy? What's
Alistair Smythe.
Yeah, he was thrown in really quickly. I mean, it's great that it's BJ Novak. I love BJ Novak, so like that would be really cool when they do that storyline. But that's the thing, when the fuck are they gonna find the time to do that storyline with everything they set up in this past movie? How are they gonna do Spider Slayers at some point? Like what?
That's all right. They'll just throw 3 of them in one movie because that's how they handle all that crap.
Apparently, like I mean, that was my like that. There's like lots of things I had problems with, but the thing is, I really did enjoy it. There was a lot of great things, and I loved. There was the trailers really like threw me off with the Rhino thing, because they made the Rhino thing look like it was the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then it was much better that they placed it somewhere else. It was much better that way. I was just
it was like an epilogue kind of thing.
I liked it that much better than that. Like, because the trailers made it seem like he beats up the whole Rhino Mech the first 20 minutes, and I'm just like, that's stupid. And then I was just like, because that's what the rumor was, but it came out much better than I thought. It was great.
It could have been worse. It could have been Mesmero in there or something, dude.
The thing is, I think it's good, but like it was one step away from Spider-Man 3. Like at any moment, it could have been like, whoa, and fell off into Spider-Man 3, and that was like the problem.
Yeah, it cuts a close edge, but I mean it to the point like I think on Sunday I was flipping through the channels and Spider-Man 2 was on with Tobey Maguire. I like 5 minutes go into it, I'm like I can't watch this one. Like it just knowing that the Spider-Man, just knowing the way Spider-Man's played, and you have the oh poor Peter, I love Mary Jane, and why is the world so hard?
God,
compared to the
happy in Spider-Man.
Oh, do the dance number skit. Do the dance number skit.
Yeah, that's that's one of the things that really and the whole and that's the thing is the other thing too is like Kirsten Dunst, by the time number 3 came around, she made it very clear she didn't want to have anything else to do with the Spider-Man movies after that, and no matter how good of an actor you are, like if you're not feeling your project, like it kind of comes across, and Emma Stone was such a much better Gwen Stacy than
whoever
Kirsten Dunst was Mary Jane, that I was like, oh man, it's hurtful almost, because I really like those Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, we go back and forth with New because I'm not I'm very much a product of the ' when it comes to comics. That we would argue over Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy, and I'm like, Gwen Stacy's dead. She totally doesn't matter about anything. But in these movies, she just comes across as a much better character. Now, whether that's because Emma Stone is a better actress than Kirsten Dunst, or just because of the way they wrote it, or whatever. But it just feels more satisfying, I guess.
Maybe Kirsten Dunst was only there for sex appeal, and Emma Stone doesn't need sex appeal. Like, she just kind of is cute and awesome, and it like comes across in her personality. You know, like, good actor.
Yeah, I refuse to comment on that under the grounds that my wife may listen to this podcast. So,
I'm just saying, no, like, Deshaun brought up the argument today. He's like, there is 2 scenes where she's just wet in a t-shirt, and that's like, and it's a Spider-Man PG-13 movie. It's just like it's just like what you don't like. And Amazing Spider-Man doesn't even need that. You know, like, that's all I'm saying. Like, they just don't even.
All I'm saying is I saw Emma Stone on Jimmy Fallon covering All I Do Is Win, and if she can bring that, then she can pretty much do it.
That was pretty great. But sorry.
I think I'm going to have to drop that in the background when we do this, when we release this. And I don't think we said it earlier in the beginning, but we're actually going to co-release this. So once this is up on YouTube for a while, we're going to grab it, strip the audio out, and run it as actual Altered Egos episode number 44. So yeah, I can almost guarantee you that track's going to be playing in the background when we get to this point.
Awesome. I love that. That's great. Do you, like, is your show heavily edited? Like, do you edit a lot because you were an audio engineer before? Like,
well, I wasn't an audio engineer, but like, I'm very, my OCD kicks in like everything I do. So when we first started off, and, you know, granted, we were just starting off, so there was a lot of sucking of teeth, Glenn, and, you know, stuff like that. So I could not listen to it without editing it out. And then after a while, Cuban and Noob had an intervention and explained to me that I was making not only myself but them crazy as well. So, you know, I kind of took my foot off the gas and eased up a little bit. So we don't do a ton of editing, but like, I will drop in music. Like, we kind of have our show in segments. We do a news segment. We do something called the Kickstand, where we grab a Kickstarter that's on now and just kind of give them a little bit of love. And, you know, if people are interested.
What kind of Kickstarters? Just anything? Or?
Usually, you know, we're focused primarily on comics. Like, the last one we did was called Dylan McVillain. It was a book about, it's like an all ages book about a little guy who's a villain, obviously, and his whole shtick is he loves pickles, you know, and his prime adversaries are the evil queen. Oh God, I can't remember off that. I feel so bad. I should have this on lock, but I don't. But the guy got funded, so that's all that really matters.
That's great.
Basically, it was the evil queen, and then her minions, the Tonalians, and it's just really cute. So we kind of try and focus just on like comic book things that I would buy if I had the money, which I don't. But you know, so like, we talk about them, show them a little love. We have a news segment, and then we do like something that an honest to goodness discussion on something. I think one of the most recent ones we did was what does death actually mean in comic books? Is it just like the sniffles, or can it be impactful in some way? So we kind of, you know, we poke fun at it a little bit. We try to have like an honest discussion about certain things and not just be goofy and stuff. But, you know, I'm on the show, so there's going to be some modicum of, you know, stupidity. Yeah, exactly.
Now, death is a revolving door is always one of my favorite comic book topics, because people ask me all the time. They're like, well, it wasn't that. Well, you know, non-comic fans are like, well, didn't Superman die? Or, you know, like, didn't Batman die? Or, you know, they ask me, like, stupid questions like that. And I'm just always just like, guys, yeah, everyone dies and comes back. It's just comics. And, like, it's like the door was broken with Superman. Like at first it was like, you know, Supergirl would die and Blue Beetle would die, and they would stay dead, and like they would actually mean something. And then Superman died and came back a few months later, and that literally opened up everybody to go into the revolving door and come out whenever they want. And
right. Think about this is one of the things that Glenn had brought up when we actually had this discussion. Glenn, you had said about what the actual impact of Superman's death and subsequent, you know, resurrection, I guess you could say, but the actual impact that he had, we got Kyle Rayner out of it, and whether you like Kyle Rayner or you don't as Green Lantern or the White Lantern or whatever you're going to classify him as today, he had a serious impact on that line of books for the tune of the 200 issues, and everything else that happened as a result.
Absolutely. And Batman, when Batman died, there was Dick Grayson and Damian, and we would have never, ever had that if Bruce was still alive. So, it's like there's certain things, it's like I realize why comics do it. Like, there's a point to it's also, they can tell, if you can tell the last great story of a superhero, I feel like that's another great skill. Like, it's really cool that way. Like, and sometimes they fail, like Batman R.I.P. But the thing is that a lot, it's like it's impactful to what the story is, not really impactful to the entire universe as a whole. Is the problem?
Yeah, and I agree. It's just you have to really watch when you're talking about that kind of stuff, because it can kind of feel like after a while when everybody and their sister is dying and then coming back, if it's not for a good reason, then what's really the point? And that's kind of like what we were looking at. If there's a meaning to it and there's an impact to it, fine, it's a story device. We got that. We can handle it. But when it's like, yeah, his shoes are blue, I don't like that, so I'm going to kill him, and then when they're purple, I'll bring them back. So that's no good, and we all know those people that do that. So
yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, there's big events for like killing people. Like, they do they're doing 3 months to live for Wolverine. Like, he's got 3 months to live, but that's he's got 3 months to return too. And
my favorite one recently was when they had said that they were killing Archie, but only in one line of the books. And then there was like 2 other books that he wasn't going to be dead in. What's the point? I mean, even as far as comic books are concerned, what does that even mean?
What?
Peter Parker's dead, and he's dead here too. Oh, he's not dead here now, but he's still dead over here. What?
It's absolutely true, because recently it's just been a revolving door for Peter Parker, and I kinda hate it. Like, I mean, I love Peter Parker. He's one of what I grew up on as like my favorite alter ego. Speaking of alter egos, is one of my favorite ones. But the thing is, I've grown to hate Peter Parker. Like, as I've gone to read more comics and read the monthlies, I have come to be like, Peter Parker is a huge asshole. Like, he is just a crazy person. And because the whole point of the message of the book is power, like, with great power comes great responsibility, and he can't handle any of his responsibility, and he's terrible to everybody around him, and he doesn't care if he ruins everybody, and then he just comes back and acts like everything's normal. And just, like, tries to live his life, which is, like, I mean, what you gotta do, but he's just not, like, I think Miles Morales does a much better job, and he's...
Exactly.
Like, that's my problem. It's like, Peter's okay, but he's been so bad at being Spider-Man for so long, I was excited by Superior. Like, Superior was fantastic.
Oh, I loved that run.
Oh, it's so good, man, because it was like, finally, somebody who can handle being Spider-Man.
Am I wrong for liking Kane and Scarlet Spider more than I like Peter?
No, because Kane and Scarlet Spider is pretty interesting. Like, what's happening with him. It's a little weird, but it is extremely interesting. Like, especially that he turns into a giant monster when he,
Spoilers! No.
I guess they figured Bruce Banner wasn't the only one that should have the market on that.
Except, giant spider monster things, which is even more frightening. It makes me go, I bet the whole...
Peter's got to do it, so why shouldn't Kane be able to do it?
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Why can't Miles do it? That's my question.
I say let's get rid of Peter altogether. Let him stay dead. Let's get Miles.
Absolutely. Like, I was kind of excited maybe that Peter would F up his head and then the Amazing Spider-Man was, #1, like a total joke, and like maybe they'll start something new, but no, they didn't. So,
let's really mess it up. Let's send Peter over to the Ultimates universe and bring Miles over to the 616.
like, I mean, but he just got his #1 today, guys. It's nice of him.
I know. I'm excited to read it.
He's got his name on the title. Finally, he's getting some respect. Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably going to be what's in X reviews for this coming week.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's interesting. The thing is that #1. It's interesting in a way that it doesn't care that it's a #1. It has no fanfare to #1. It like sort of introduces you to a bunch of plots to like get you introduced to the universe, but really it's total continuation of the last Ultimate Spider-Man issue I read, which was like months ago because they like stopped putting out the Ultimate Spider-Man book when Galactus showed up and just effed everything up.
Yeah, and that's what's great about the Ultimate Universe is that it really just takes liberties with these characters that are so entrenched in the Marvel 616 that, as much as, like, let's say Brian Bendis would love to do something like that, like kill a Peter Parker, you're not going to do that in the 616. No matter what kind of talent you are, that's just not going to happen. But the Ultimate Universe, oh yeah. Peter Parker Spider-Man's been around since 1963, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not going to change anytime soon. But the Ultimate Universe, I mean, they killed Wolverine and Cyclops and Professor X and Magneto years ago.
And then recently they killed everyone else.
And they killed everybody else. So
yeah, I'd like to see how that dead is dead in the Ultimate Universe. I'd like to see how that's going to play out now.
They've been dead. That's what they always said, is the Ultimate Universe is dead.
Which I think is interesting. Like, except for, well, just read Ultimate Spider-Man, you'll see. But
no spoilers.
No spoilers, but just...
That's at the top of my stack for later on.
Yeah, don't say it. As soon as we're done here, I'm actually going to go read that, so...
But, that's all I'm saying, is that... also my other theory for the Spider-Man films is that I think that they should kill Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3 and let Miles Morales take down the Sinister Six in the Sinister Six movie.
That would be interesting.
Like, you plant the seeds for him in the Venom movie, the Miles Morales stuff, and then boom, in Sinister Six he like takes down everybody.
That's an interesting question. If Marvel decided to, could they put out a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie?
Nah, they can't. They could put out a Miles Morales, probably, if they haven't gone back and fixed the contracts to include like Ultimate Spider-Man stuff in the Sony rights.
Yeah, I wonder.
But they can't call him Spider-Man. They can't have him have Spider-Man-like powers.
No.
Well, we could call him Spider Hombre.
Yeah.
Bring in a little of the Spanish flair.
Sure. Yeah.
Arachna Hombre.
They could probably do that like a parody type Spider-Man, but then then Sony can go ahead and pull out like a parody Captain America, a not quite Captain America and a not quite Avengers somebody else can make, and then you just like wind up just
because nobody else has a Captain America-esque character. There's never been another one of those.
Well, it depends. It depends on whether you want to go toe to toe with Marvel and their multimedia conglomerate juggernaut.
Well, I think everybody else. I think it'll be okay as long as DC decides not to make a Guardian movie.
Oh, the Guardian's different, man. His shield is gold and it's shaped like a bat.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's like totally different.
It's totally different.
No, he's just gonna like show up in an Arrow episode and like get shot at, and he's gonna block something, and they're gonna be like, "Oh God, look at him!" Like,
oh, don't harsh on Arrow. It's a good show.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that's what they do.
Oh, I can't believe your fans, Frank. They're all saying I can't. Oh, why does Frank hate the Arrow TV show? Why does he hate the Gotham show? And why does he hate the Flash show?
Okay, the Gotham show looks a little bit like it gives me hope, but at the same time, I'm a little bit frightened. Like I watched that trailer yesterday, and I was like, "Ooh, that could be good." But
grain of salt, just grain of salt.
But the problem is, I thought about it. The trailer they made that from is not from a season of a show. It's from the pilot. So it kind of seems contrived to me that all those characters would be doing things at the same time. You know, like, I don't know, it seems a little bit contrived.
Yeah, but think about it. How many of the shows do you see stuff where they show clips of things that are happening, and it's like the pilot episode, and it's like crap that doesn't happen until like episode 12. So, you know, there's some stuff going on there, I guess.
True.
The good news is they already ordered a season for that Gotham show, so they might be able to spread it out a little bit.
Good. I mean, that's good. I want to see it play out, at least. That's like what I'm interested in, but I'll give it a chance, of course. I'll watch anything Batman, guys. Real Books don't have Batman. Come on. I'll watch it.
And remember, it's always better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So it's better to have the show and not like it than to pray that you could have the show.
Yeah, I guess you got a point, but that kind of happened with Beware the Batman. Is that I was just like, I don't really want this show, and then.
Well, did you hear that they're actually like the last 4 or 5 episodes they have? They're playing at like 3:30 in the morning because they have to.
No, this is the weird story. Let me tell you about this because me and Deshaun actually got really into the show. We were like, actually, this show's kind of good, and we kind of started watching it every week, and then they canceled it, and then it turned out they didn't cancel it in New Zealand, so they kept just putting out the episodes in New Zealand.
What show was this?
Beware the Batman. And so it just kept coming out, and Toonami picked up the rights, so now they get the rest of the season, even though they're already produced. So Toonami's just putting it out, so they don't even have to make anything for Beware the Batman. It's just
didn't that get nominated for a daytime Emmy too?
Really?
I think I read that somewhere.
If you don't sell any toys, you don't get to play. That's the way it works, man.
Man, it's you just throw that bat symbol on any toy and it will sell.
Yeah, absolutely. I would buy any bat toy. Are you kidding? Like, why not? Like, that's all I'm saying. I'll buy anything Batman. Like, that's a problem with Bat fans. You're just kind of like, it's got a bat symbol on it.
Well, listen, real quick, Frank. Just to, like, in the interest of, since we're going to be doing this, like, releasing this as an episode of Altered Egos too. Yeah, Can you tell, like, for our listeners a little bit about what real books don't have Batman and what the idea behind that one is?
Oh, yeah. Real Books Don't Have Batman. Now, it sounds like an offensive title. Everyone says that every time, but it's actually a joke that that somebody said, hey, why don't you read any real books to me? And I was like, well, real books don't have Batman in them. And then me and Deshaun used that as our title, and and now we have been going for 2 years now, and we've grown pretty big. It's pretty awesome. We're on Geeky Universe, Rhymes with Geek, Comic Podcast Network. We're on a bunch of different websites, and it's fun. We just review weekly comics on Wednesdays, and then on Saturdays is reviews of anything we kind of want. But we have been doing this Year of the Bat specials, so we go through a bunch of our favorite Batman stories, and we're just reviewing them.
Yeah, I mean, like, I started doing the Spotlight stuff for the Comics Podcast Network, and, we totally do it at random. I just go through, grab all the stuff for the week, throw it in a random number generator, and whatever spits it out. And I hadn't heard your show before until it came up. But I listened to it, and it's like, you listen, comic podcasts are all kind of, they have the same kind of ebb and flow to them and stuff like that. Every once in a while you listen to one that's like, that's cool. And it just, you guys just click with me. So I really enjoyed it, and I was really glad that you asked us to be on this as well.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, man. That is so great to hear especially from another podcast, man, because that really means something.
Yeah, and it's so, like, you get some fan feedback and stuff like that, but the worst thing, and like if anybody's, anybody listening too, the worst thing to a podcaster isn't bad feedback. That's cool, because that means somebody's listening to you and cares enough to complain. It's when we get no feedback. Yeah. So if you're listening to a show and, Deshaun, even though he's not here, so he can't defend himself, so we'll pick on him. If he says something just totally outlandish and off the cuff and it just annoys the crap out of you, don't not listen. Send an email or something, at the very least. And then call the show, or whatever. But let whoever it is you're listening to know that you either, totally in their corner, or you think they're freaking nuts and you don't plan on listening anymore. Even that's okay. If you don't want to listen, just let us know you're not listening anymore.
Yeah.
And why? Because then we can either be glad we offended you, or no, that's not. We can address what it was, and then take care of it. But don't ever let it go by the wayside. Same thing, like Noob had said before. If you are a big fan of a certain creator or something, especially recently with Mr. D'Alessandro, don't let things go by the wayside. If you have a chance, just walk up to him. I like what you do. Thank you, and walk away. Even if that's all you're going to do, it means more than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that, I think that's the same for any type of art. I feel like art doesn't work in a vacuum, and I feel like it needs feedback all the time.
Yeah, filmmakers don't care about that, though. Filmmakers don't really care what you say.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we are. I'm go to film school, and I'm a filmmaker, and you kind of just have to make it for yourself, or you will drive yourself crazy. So you gotta just not care what people say.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. And that's the funny thing with movies is that, and fans of the properties and fans of the movies that get put out there, is, especially comic book fans and sci-fi fans, we have such a entitlement to the character or to the source material, like it's our character or our, like Spider-Man is my character. That you really get, when you have someone that's trying to adapt that to a particular vision, it you get offended when it doesn't come out the way you want it to come out. And a big example of that is the Star Wars movies, when Lucas went back and made the special editions. He's like, this is the way I always envisioned it, and this is the way I wanted it. And then people were like, but no, that's not the way it is. It's like, you're telling the guy who wrote and created it that that's not the way it's supposed to be. And he's but that's the way I want it to be. So it's always a fine line.
I have an argument only for George Lucas. Like, I support you in what you're saying. Artists should go back and change what they want, but it's George Lucas. Like, that's my problem, is George Lucas is a hack. Like, he's only done 2 good Star Wars movies, and there is not really there's nothing else that he's done for the series that's been helpful. Like, if you actually look at it, he directed and wrote Star Wars, the original one, episode 4. They say it's only was saved in editing. Otherwise, the movie would have been a mess. And then he only produced and wrote the story, quote unquote, on 5 and 6. Like, and then you watch episode 1, 2, and 3, and 3 is the only one that's even watchable. And it's just like, come on, George. Like, why do you think you have say over all these other things? And don't F with what you didn't actually make. Like, that's what I kind of...
Did you read the original screenplay?
I've read not the original screenplay, but I've been reading the comic based off of the original screenplay.
Oh, the original screenplay is not real great.
No,
it's worth reading because it's a totally different movie.
Oh, but, yeah, isn't it?
Oh, it's not great.
No, it's partly episode 1, and then it's mixed with like a bunch of other things. It's really weird. Like, Luke
Skywalker's like an old general, and just it's freaky.
That's crazy. I've been reading that same The Star Wars comic from Dark Horse, and I'm reading it. I'm like, man, I don't know if I missed an issue or if I skipped a page. But like sometimes I'm like, I feel like I just got lost here. I don't understand what's happening. What's happening here?
That's
from a perspective of it's like part of I don't want to even say it's part of the universe, because it's not. It's just so because it's related to, and like I guess that's what formed the foundation for what we do have. It's interesting to read.
Yeah, it's like
it's like
it's a little rough. Like that's why I'm saying it kind of reveals Lucas's true you know, his true self in that screenplay. You're like, this is what he pitched to companies, and they said, let's go with it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. He must have spiked their drinks, or maybe he is from a galaxy far, far away, and Jedi mind tricked the hell out of him, or something like that. It's like, you will make this movie for us. You know what, George? We're gonna make this movie for you.
No, he had Francis Ford Coppola with him. Like, Francis Ford Coppola and him were best buds back then, and he was just like, Francis Ford Coppola was like, I made you a shit ton of money with Godfather. Let this man make you a shit ton of money with Star Wars. And they were like,
well, no, it was totally what he did with American Graffiti.
Yeah,
they made a crap ton of money off of American Graffiti, and he's like, look, I want to do this space war story, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, make more money, yes, and so that's all they heard. And he saved a ton because he just grabbed college students to do all the special effects and everything.
Mm-hmm. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Millionaires now.
Making millions.
And somehow their daughters get to be cosplay queens and stuff. You get out of here.
What?
Whose daughters?
Say that again.
Chloe, what's her face? John Dykstra's daughter. She's like a huge cosplay chick and everything. She's got her own show and just Chloe, not Chloe Dykstra, is it? No, it's not Chloe Dykstra. It's John. I know it's John Dykstra's daughter, and it just annoys me to all get out.
That's crazy. I mean, did you guys like the Star Wars casting? Let me ask you guys that.
The new Star Wars casting?
Yes, of course. It's all important.
No, it sucked because my son actually went to one of those jank auditions where they had like 1 billion people waiting forever. So no, they didn't cast the right people at all.
Oh, okay.
The pup got screwed. He sat out in the freezing cold and in Nashville for like 8 hours. Didn't get the part. So no, the pup got screwed. And on that, no, I don't like the casting.
I stood in line for 4 hours to hopefully be cast as an extra in Transformers 2, and I didn't get picked either. I think I was too old for the college age kids.
And how good was that movie? Mm-hmm. See the trend I'm going with here?
If I'd been in there, it could have been better. I'm just throwing it out there.
Just let it.
But yeah, no, I think the casting is exciting. I mean, a lot of the actors I'm not super familiar with, so I think that's kind of good for a movie like this.
Absolutely.
And then you have the original actors back for maybe just one movie as they pass that torch on. But I don't know, it'll be interesting to see it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty great. I love the guy that was in Attack the Block. I'm forgetting his name right now. I'm trying to look it up at the same time, but I think it's really great. I think they got a great idea with hiring Max van
Sydow,
because he is. It's like you have, for it to be Star Wars, you still got to hire the really important British actor, and like he's the best one to hire at the moment who hasn't been in the series, and you can't hire Sir Patrick Stewart because it would be too much crossover and everyone's brains would go so you have to so you have to go with somebody else.
Let me tell you my favorite Max von Sydow role has to be Ming the Merciless from the Flash Gordon movie from the early 80s.
I'm hearing more background music, dude.
He was the best at Ming the Merciless. He played it straight, man. He played it straight, and he was just awesome.
That's what you got to do with the Flash Gordon movie. Play it all straight.
You've got to. I think they all played it straight, and it comes off just not comically, but it comes off real funny. And it was just a great. That's one of my. I'd like to say guilty pleasures, but I'll straight up tell you, I love the Flash Gordon movie. It was the.
Come on, dude! It was awesome. And the Queen soundtrack was incredible.
Yeah, it's all about the Queen soundtracks. Flash! So it's just like all about that. But guys, I think we got to start wrapping it up.
What?
I know. Our hour. I'm sorry. We're just getting into the Star Wars talk, but we're coming in at an hour, and I want to just say thank you for coming on to this show. It's been really awesome having you guys on.
Oh, Frank, thank you.
Absolutely.
Man. We appreciate it.
Like, it's really great to have you guys as the first guest on our beginning of Season 2 of Crisis on Multiple Podcasts. We hope to keep going strong, and it's also great to show you guys off, because I think more people need to know about you guys and other shows on Comic Podcast Network and other shows.
Well, like I said, I'm a huge comic book fan. I mean, I've been reading comics for probably just about 30, if not just a little over 30 years. And and there's one thing that I love is a crossover, baby.
Yeah, Glenn was like, when I originally pitched it to Glenn, I was like, hey, I was talking to this guy Frank. He does the Real Books Don't Have Batman, and they have this Crisis on Multiple I kept saying Crisis on Infinite Podcast, but. It's like, they have a show, and it's like, we're gonna go on there, and like, we'll rip the audio for ours, and he's like, I love me a crossover, baby.
They're the best.
It is the best, man. I mean, they're so excited.
Frank, we absolutely had a ball. I mean, I won't speak for Glenn. I'm sure he'll, gush on it as well, but we really enjoyed it. And, as comic book fans, one of the things that we love the most is to just sit down and have meaningless discussions with other fans about what if or what could be kind of stuff. So, thank you. We really appreciate it.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I love it. I love being on your show. I love that we're going to have you as part of our show when we release this as an audio, a cross-promotional audio podcast for us. And it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, whenever you can get a comic book related nerds together, it's just always a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, if you guys need anybody for any further episodes, please let me know. I'll be happy to step in if you need anybody.
And vice versa.
Okay, sounds great. Now, where can we?
You're talking to the right guy too, because Glenn does like triple duty. He's one of the co-hosts of the big show, Alt3red Egos Comic Book Podcast. He does his own show. The Shotcast is totally at Glenn's discretion and whatever he wants to do with it. We always tell people, if you think that we're nuts or we're stupid and don't know what we're talking about, give Glenn a holler. Do your own Shotcast and we'll throw it up. We don't care. As long as it's clean, we'll put it up.
Nice.
It's like the Wild West over in this piece.
That's great. Now, where can we find Alt3red Egos Podcast?
Glenn?
Well, you can definitely check us out on our website at alt3redegos.com, which is ALT, the number 3, REDEGOS.com. So remember that first E is a 3. You can find us on iTunes. Just do a Alt3red Egos search or comic book podcast, Alt3red Egos comic book podcast, or the Shotcast, and we'll pop up there. You can find us on Stitcher Radio as well. And
also on Comics Podcast Network. You can find us at facebook.com/AltRedEgos, at AltRedEgos.com on Twitter. Pretty soon, plus Alt3red Egos on Google Plus. So, if you're one of the fools that does Tumblr, we got a Tumblr, AltRedEgos.tumblr.com. So,
nice.
We're kind of putting everything out there, just letting our comic flag fly, if you will.
That's wonderful, man. That's great. That's awesome.
And by juxtaposition, where can people get a hold of Real Books Don't Have Batman and Crisis on Multiple Podcasts?
Well, if you're watching Crisis on Multiple Podcasts on YouTube, you can get more episodes by hitting that subscribe button down below. So it's YouTube/YepFrank. You can find me everywhere as YepFrank. And if you type in SoundCloud/YepFrank, you'll get our show Real Books Don't Have Batman. Also our show Coulson and Friends. And be sure to check all those places out, and also check out my video game media company that I work for called GIU Studios. If you've been listening this entire time being like, where's the games at? We do a slate of 7 shows all about video games. So, and it's all just web series and crazy other stuff. Check it out. And they're just, you'll type it into YouTube, you'll find it.
And don't forget, you can find both of our shows on the Comics Podcast Network at www.comicspodcast.com.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm glad you did the little plug there.
Yeah, I'm sure Ian will be very happy about that.
Well, thanks again, guys, for coming on. It's been great. And be sure to tune in to this YouTube for more Crisis on Multiple podcast episodes.
Other great podcasts to come soon, so don't miss them.